Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and of course everyone in between and beyond. My name is Masaki, today's moderator from an LGBT student organization symposium at International Christian University. This event is called What Does It Mean to Study Queer Theory? And our ultimate goal is to create a space for students, primarily undergrads, to meet one of today's hottest queer theorists in the world, Prof.Judith Halberstam, from the University of Southern California. First of all, I'd like to thank Hinako Miyazawa, today's organizer, who has put a lot of efforts into the realization of this event, from taking care of all the paperwork, necessary procedures, to ordering foods and drinks for the party afterwards, which I'm expecting all of you to attend later. As an undergraduate student majoring in gender and sexuality studies at ICU, Hinako has been actively involved in queer student activism here. I'm extremely grateful to her for taking the initiative to make this event happen. Hinako, please come up here and say hi.
Thank you, Masaki. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for coming all the way to ICU. As the organizer, I would like this to be a very enjoyable and meaningful conversation between students and Professor Halberstam. So please try to speak up and take part in the conversation. And for accepting our offer and speaking to us today, I'm very grateful to Professor Halberstam. I'm also thankful to Akiko Sensei from the University of Tokyo, because we wouldn't be here together with Professor Halberstam if it had not been for her. She was the one who first came up with the idea of doing something that would bring together Professor Halberstam and students. Especially bring together Professor Halberstam and students, especially undergraduates interested in queer and gender studies. Last and not least, there is a universal access bathroom at the end of the hallway. You go outside the room and turn left, go straight till you see the bathroom on your left, and there you go. Thank you.
Thank you, Hinako. As Hinako said, Dr. Akiko Shimizu from the Department of Interdisciplinary Cultural Studies at the University of Tokyo has continuously supported our efforts to invite Professor Halberstam. I'd also like to thank our co-sponsor, the University of Tokyo Center for Philosophy. The Center for Gender Studies at ICU has also been supportive in letting us use their space for preparation. Finally, as our announcement said, this is a student-organized event. We have many volunteer students working today, not to mention yesterday and the day before. I'd like to say thank you to each of them, taking care of registration, checking the air conditioning, taking pictures and videos, controlling the, there's supposed to be someone controlling the audio equipment, and preparing for the party. Now, I'm sure no one has never heard of Professor Halberstam, I mean, obviously since you're here, but even from before. And you have probably read some of her books and articles. Her work has been a great it's been a great inspiration to all of us. I think there are more than a few students here writing their papers drawing on her past work. Professor Halberstam included. Professor Halberstam is definitely one of the most influential thinkers in the field of queer theory and cultural studies today. Author of Female Masculinity and in a Queer Time and Place. She has produced groundbreaking theories and offered us new perspectives to look at gender, subculture, time, space, and identity. Now, I'll hand it over to Professor Halberstam, since we're so excited we can't wait. The first 30 minutes, 35 minutes, something like that, will be her lecture combined with a photographic slideshow, followed by a 30-minute floor discussion, talk session. I'm sure you'll enjoy. Please welcome Professor Judith Halberstam.
This good? Yeah, oh, this is mine. Okay. Good afternoon. Thank you for coming to this event. Thank you, Misaki, for a beautiful introduction, and to Hinako for organizing this. So, I'm not going to speak for too long, maybe 30-35 minutes. I'm sure they will cut the sound when the time comes, so we'll be all right. But I thought I would show you a slideshow of images that I have been writing about that are trying to track queer communities and queer people across a period of about 70, 80 years in the context of mostly Europe, but also the US. So I make no claims for this as a sort of universal model of gay, lesbian, transgender life, but the images do tell a lot of different stories, and that's why I'm calling this slideshow Queer Faces from Lost Times, because some of the images are very, they're quite moving in the sense that something is captured from a long time ago that still has a sort of echo in the contemporary moment. And I thought that if we looked at these images together, then we would be able to have a nice discussion later about the meaning of visualizing queerness, what it means to make it visible, what it means when it is invisible, and about the relationship between visuality and queerness. Okay? So there are 3 areas that I'm interested in, just to give you a framework for thinking about the photographs together. The first one, and these are really 3 questions that I have for you to think about while you look at the images with me. The first question is, what is the relationship between trying to make queer culture visible and producing the spectacle of the freak? Okay? What's the relationship between trying to make the queer that has been repressed or pushed aside, to make it visible, and the tendency to transform queerness into a kind of representation of freakishness? Okay, so we'll look at that. The second question is, what is the relationship between these images of a queer past, a past of sexual minorities, and contemporary understandings of queer identity? So what happens when we look at these images from the past? What do they tell us about the way we might think about identity today? And then finally, this is a question, my last question, but I'll begin with a sort of answer to this question. The question is, what is the meaning of authenticity or realness in relationship to the project of making queerness visible? So how do you know when you see an image that you're really looking at a gay person or a lesbian person or a trans person? What is it that would mark that person in the image as really this or really that? Now that may seem like a trivial question, okay? So I'm going to start with some images maybe you know by a Korean-American woman called Nikki Lee. Do people know Nikki Lee's photography? Anybody know it? No? Okay. Nikki Lee is an Asian-American, Korean-American woman who moved to the US and came under certain pressure to assimilate, to become American in a model that assumed whiteness and middle-classness and so on. So she began to make photographs about inauthenticity. And this is what they look like. And you can't,